Madison, let's talk about Dune.
Yeah, I saw it opening day in IMAX in the morning. It was like 10 a.m., which was really fantastic.
Wonderful.
I think I already mentioned, I remember seeing the first one and being a little disappointed because I don't think I realized like how much of a part 1/part 2 it was going to be. But wow, what good movie making, you know? Like,
Truly.
Dune 2 is like, well, both the Dune movies are just like, when everything is hitting on all cylinders, from the writing to the acting to the set design to costuming to score to sound design, like when everything is hitting on all cylinders, this is what you get. You just get a great movie.
It's crazy because, I keep referencing the David Lynch version. All the events of Dune 2, David Lynch covered in 45 minutes in his movie. This is not a spoiler-free discussion. One of the biggest differences between Denis' Dune 2 and David Lynch's Dune is, before I even go there, have you read the books?
No.
Okay, me neither. It's on my list, but I'm like, that's a big undertaking, maybe someday. So in Lynch's Dune, Aaliyah, which is Paul's soon-to-be sister, is actually born, which I believe is closer to the book. So she is born, she is a young child, and she's the one that kills some of the Harkonnens and kind of is just like a really scary child figure. Anyway, this time we just get a ton of fetus talk. Fetus on screen. We open with the fetus. We have a lot of fetus back and forth with wonderful Rebecca, Ferguson. There's a lot of fetus time, which I did not expect. But
Neither did I.
Beyond the fetusness of it all, beautiful movie start to finish. And I got home and the next morning rewatched Dune 1, and now I'm going to go through Dune 2 again. I just liked it so much more. The first one is great, but I think this to me, not just because of the action, but the real character arc and how deep we're getting and how fleshed out everybody is, to which I have to say I'm kind of glad he split it up this way, because we had so much buildup of who these people are and why there's the loss, and now we get to see it kind of like a really evil butterfly.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that I didn't get when I was watching it the first time, was I didn't understand that this was an origin story for a villain.
Yeah.
And once I because when I saw it, I was like, that was my one reservation, was I was like, I don't know if he should be taking all this power. Like, I don't know what's this movie trying to say. And I was like, yeah, that was a good movie. Like, yeah, let's start a holy war, I guess. And then I got home and listened to, or just was, listening to the discourse on like Twitter and TikTok or whatever. I was like, oh, this is a cautionary tale. And it didn't dawn on me while I was watching it that's what the story is. The story is a cautionary tale about cultural projections and about taking power. And I like it a lot more now that I know that that's where the story is going.
And it's not even to your fault. It's more a sign of where we are as a culture, that it felt genuine. You were like, wait a second, I don't like the fact that he's setting himself up to be Space Hitler. And I think the thing is, there are a lot of people who left that movie excited that he got all this power. And I think he's still the hero. Where, at least for me, having watched it, knowing that Dune and Star Wars have a lot of shared plot lines, but knowing that he really wanted the Anakin character of the prequels to mirror Paul Atreides, knowing that going in, this is how you really set up a villain story of holy war, jihad, not just simply dethrone the emperor. It was full on, I am the Messiah.
Yeah, because watching it, you're just like, he knows exactly what he's not supposed to do.
Yes.
From the get-go, he's like, I'm not this person that you think I am. I can't go south. I can't do this. I can't do that. And then you just watch as he does each one of those things.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you not listening to yourself? Like, you know what not to do, but he just starts breathing in the projections of everyone around him and, just kind of leans into wanting to take vengeance. And yeah.
Can we go a little deeper? I don't know. I mean, I was reading a lot after the first one to see what the other books from Frank, not his son. I mean, his son, Brian Herbert, has like 40 different spinoffs because he's made it his life's work to build on his dad's work. Anyway, Frank Herbert has a few more books: Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune. And the thing is, and I don't know how I feel about this, knowing he wrote each book, and it wasn't a direct 1 year, 1 year, 1 year storyline. He posits later that Paul Atreides had seen every possible future. Fans of Doctor Strange would love that. He's seen every
Hmm.
possible future, and this is the only way in which the golden path, the Bene Gesserit's like golden path, can be reached. And so there's a quote in a later book that says, in order for them to be free, I had to enslave them. And that through their worship of me, they would suddenly break free from their own mind prisons and be the people they needed to be. Now, I think that's a terrible idea. And maybe
Yeah,
that's what Frank Herbert was saying. Maybe he was trying to say, if this is the mind prisons we put ourselves in, there's something wrong with how we act as human beings. But it
yeah,
does set up a very interesting movie because if Denis finishes the script and this has a really good theatrical run for Dune Part 2 and he gets Messiah approved, I just don't know how many people are going to watch that movie and either believe it's heretical to their Christian theology or believe it should be their new theology. Like it's a
yeah,
dangerous place to be right now.
yeah. It is. Yeah, no, I mean, I assume I don't know how we couldn't get a Dune Messiah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Dune is just it's such part of our cultural zeitgeist right now that I don't know. I couldn't imagine a studio would be like, yeah, I'm not going to greenlight the part three. Like it just seems silly.
Well, I will say producers, studio heads are being a little coy. Everyone is asking them, are we going to see Dune Messiah? And it's been the same thing. They like, we got to see how this theatrical run does. We have to see how it's going to go. I mean, in about 4 months, when there's nothing at the box office that's new other than Deadpool 3, they're going to put the first Dune back in the box office and continue this one going in IMAX. It's just going to be an IMAX back to back.
You think so?
I think so.
I would do a 6 hour double feature.
That's what I'm like, give it a Saturday or Sunday, and someone's going to have their popcorn bucket and a bottle of lube, and they are going to go do a double feature. Them and just Lisan Al Gaib. That's all it's going to be for 6 hours straight.
Yeah, yeah. No, I kind of foresee because we had like the Barbenheimer thing last summer where you just get these weird pockets of cultural energy, and
Yeah.
boy, the discourses online has been nothing but Dune for like over a week. And like, there's just something about this story. Maybe maybe it's more than the story. It's like obviously there are people who have a cult love of the books, right? But I think maybe in the last year or two, we've just been kind of in a lull of some really good cinematic experiences. Once Marvel kind of overexerted itself, it kind of left a bit of a vacuum. And, we're seeing movies step into that are truly like cinematic experiences. And I think that's what Dune is. Dune is not just like, I wouldn't say it's just a movie.
No.
It's something like you should go see this in IMAX because the entire thing is filmed in IMAX. And like, I hate to say it, but watching this on your laptop is just not going to cut it.
The grandeur and the beauty and, like you said, it's a cinematic experience is so much more visceral on IMAX or, in a theater in general, but definitely on the biggest screen possible. And I think to your point, it's proving I don't want to get into the glib state of, oh, people are bored of Marvel, they want original stories. We've always wanted original stories, and some of them have come
Yeah.
from Marvel. And if not, then they've gone to indie movies. But I think, yeah, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we had a little more of District 9 or Elysium, or you just had different kinds of stories coming out. They're a little more sci-fi that weren't just Star Wars, Marvel, a Fast 10, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. And I think it's going to be interesting because I feel like most studio people are the smartest dumb people and the dumbest smart people out there. They see
Yeah.
trends and graphs and they're like, boom, let's do it. Let's greenlight Madam Web. Let's do another Morbius. Let's do another. They do some of these things that just to me, I'm like, did you not just see what happened? Like, that was a terrible idea. Whereas Dune, filmed practically with CGI, and I watched a ton of behind the scenes after getting out of Dune 2 of Denis had a budget smaller than the Marvels and
Yeah.
smaller than a lot of these other, like, just not terrible, but like less than exemplary movies. And he was doing it with helicopters. He was flying through canyons and filming a helicopter and then replacing that in CGI because he's like, why would I spend all this money to create a fake canyon when I can do it all the same? We're going to have real physics involved in all of this. Anyway, it shows because there's such dedication to what he's doing the whole time. It feels real. It looks real. It's big. It's bold. It's what a movie should be. If we're paying $20 for a ticket, California, or 18 anywhere else, it needs to be a movie or it needs to have a story so good you want to go sit in the theater and just connect with the screen and the people around you. And this satisfies that on all levels for me.
I feel like it's the same kind of movement that's kind of being made in animation right now, where
Yeah.
you had 10 years of a pretty sterile animation style once we moved away from traditional 2D animation to kind of this Pixarification of animation, where in the last 2 or 3 years you get Puss in Boots, you get the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, you get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where it's just like, oh, we're going back to art. We're going back to being artists and making our,
Yeah.
this is a craft. This isn't just about pumping out stuff just to like make money. This is about creating an experience for people. And I really am hoping that we get back to that in terms of like live action movie making as well. And you're right that it feels like Hollywood is full of some of the dumbest smart people, because it's like, I feel like they're going to learn the wrong lessons here.
Yep.
I remember last summer when, Barbie had just such a huge hit, and then seeing headlines of like, oh, they're going to greenlight a Mattel cinematic universe. I'm like, no, that's not the lesson you should be learning here at all. And so like, I'm excited. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that we get a Dune Messiah, but I cringe to think of what are the wrong lessons they're going to learn here.
I mean, especially they're going to get a Doom Messiah while Timmy is getting the paychecks he's getting, but before they're bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Timothée signs up for Marvel, Star Wars, or anything else, or just keeps doing big prestige films, he's only going to get more expensive. And I think when it comes to film series like this, and you could let it be done, or you could have another one, that is a huge factor for studio heads. So I think they got to do it quicker rather than later, especially with both Hans Zimmer already ready. He's already said, he's like, Denis working on the script. I'm already working on music for Messiah. So
Oh, wow.
they can greenlight it, but it's already in the process. And Denis has been working on it. He had never stopped writing. He finished the other movie and he was still writing, and he's doing it right now through award season. So there's no rest for the excellence that is this pairing. I think, like you're saying, though, this is going to spawn some Sydney Sweeney led Valyrian bullshit that is just going to be the creator on crack. It's going to be like hot 3 people, gigantic budget, tons of CGI, sand. Sand's working. We love sand. And that's what
we
they're
love sand now. We don't hate sand. We love sand.
Anakin was the death of sand. Now we've got sand back. Sand is in. And it's going to be some bad lessons like that. I agree.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, don't get me wrong. This cast is full of attractive people, but like, that's not the point. That's not the point.
Nope. I will tell you. Oh, go ahead.
I would have loved to see Christopher Walken do his. You ever see that music video of his?
Yes.
Dancing with the worm. Gosh. Yes. If you walk without rhythm, you won't attract the worm.
I'm just surprised SNL hasn't had him on already to do it. Maybe it'll be after wins Best Picture, but it's like, come on, old alum. I will say, if there's one wishful thinking movie to come out of this Dune success, I think it is time that somebody with a vision and a different style comes in and does Flash Gordon right. Or John Carter, because the last one was absolutely horrendous, right? I think if we're going back to early sci-fi, early 20th century sci-fi, or the first half of 20th century, this is our chance to do some movies of, sci-fi's cool. Kids who never really watched Star Wars are now going to the theaters right now, bored of the ones Disney did anyway. They want something new and fresh. This is the moment to get in there with somebody young, a Glenn Powell, a Donald Glover. Get someone like that for the male side. Get someone who's interesting on the female side, who has something to bring. From The Bear, Ayo Edebiri.
Yeah.
Get somebody who's in that level and go and do one of these movies. Or I would love something completely new. But I'm saying if we're gonna take a pre-existing IP, which is what they're trusting, Now's the time to do some great sci-fi.
Yeah.
Everyone's used, but we don't have, the original done right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I'm realizing now is that Dune is to sci-fi what the Lord of the Rings is to fantasy. And
Definitely.
I don't think I don't think I understood that the Dune is kind of not the progenitor, because like, you've got Isaac Asimov, you've got like a lot of old school sci-fi that really served as the foundation for a lot of sci-fi storytelling to come later. But now that I'm aware of what some of the imagery is in Dune, I see it all over the place.
Oh
I see it
yeah.
in SpongeBob, I see it in Star Wars. Like it's just it's everywhere.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know you've probably seen some of the discourse too, and it's off people saying, "What are they wearing? This looks like North African garb. It looks like Islam." It's like, exactly. That's what Frank Herbert was talking about. And at least in my opinion, he takes Middle Eastern religion and practices in addition to Christianity, melds it with Lawrence of Arabia, and then I do think he takes from Flash Gordon or some of these other early sci-fi stories, the Missions to Mars, all these old pulpy sci-fi books that they used to have under 1,000 names. And he makes, like you're saying, a Lord of the Rings style epic that is the gold standard. And so I think this is a good time to pick out what else, not just what else is a gold standard, but what does it in such a different way that we're engaged and enthralled the whole time. I mean, every part of this part two, I was just like, oh my gosh. The religious aspects, the iconography, the visions, the relationship impact, he with his mother, and all the different things here. It just is a complete story, start to finish, where I think I saw The Creator last year. It was not in my top 10, and the story was lacking, in my opinion. Whereas this just felt airtight.
Yeah, in terms of like world building, like this feels it's cohesive. Like from like yeah, that's just what is so I think so great about the Dune movies is that they feel just so cohesive. They're like everything from the world building to set design to costuming to the music to like like concepting spaceships, like it all just feels like it actually could be real. And like I did see The Creator, and I liked The Creator simply because it was like an original sci-fi film, in a world where we just doesn't feel like we get original stories anymore. Yeah, I could have used maybe some more editing in terms of storytelling, but yeah, it didn't, there's a cohesiveness and an integrity to what Denis done that it really comes across.
Which, like you're saying, almost like Tolkien, he has the language, he has the story, the backstory, the lore. It's just so well built out. Where I feel like a lot of times we get things that are half baked and then they go to film and then they're rushed and nobody gets it. I mean, Jupiter Ascending, weird movie. I enjoyed it.
Could
It
have been
wasn't
so good
great.
though.
Could have been so good. Or Cloud Atlas, terribly good and just terrible at the same time. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it and I loved where it was trying to go with it, but bad execution and not
Valerian
enough
and the City of a
input.
Thousand Planets.
Yeah, it just there's a handful, and that's why I liked District 9, I liked Elysium, but they're not fantastic. They each have their
No,
own
yeah.
issues. Either way, sci-fi fan, it's a hopeful time, and a little bit of a worry time, but it's a hopeful time, and I'm excited for Dune Messiah when that finally gets fully announced. And if anyone hasn't seen Dune 2, go see it. Go see it in IMAX.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go pay the money and get yourself a Shai Halud popcorn bucket.